Hello readers, I'm the Avid reader and today we're reviewing The Coffee Thief by William Smits, also known as the YouTube channel William's Library. And this author is actually one of my subscribers and he's from Indonesia and he runs his own YouTube channel. Last month he was nice enough to send me a copy of his new alternative history book. So what is this book about? It takes place in an alternative universe where the Dutch Empire remained. In our own timeline, after World War II, the Dutch decolonized and they left Indonesia. But in this version, they didn't, and they still rule Indonesia. And they don't treat the local people that well. And this novel takes place from 1953 to 1954. And you can see the author here, William Smits. And it's a short, concise read of 170 pages. So the story opens with Antonius, who's a coffee picker. So he just picks coffee at a plantation. And he's a Christian, so this takes place in North Sulawesi, which is a Christian part of Indonesia. And something he does is on the side, he steals some of the coffee beans from his plantation. But one time after work, he witnesses a woman being raped by a white man. He's a coward kind of, so he doesn't do anything about it. So he just goes home and has guilt. The next day when he comes to his job, he's called in by the plantation owner. And there's accusations that he's spreading sedition. So he's spreading anti-Dutch pamphlets, apparently, according to them. And the person they bring in as a witness is the woman he saw raped the previous day. And instead of repeating her accusations, she goes and picks up the gun she knows exists in the office and shoots the plantation owner. And there's another guy in the room also, so she shoots him and shoots him in the head. And then she's gonna shoot Antonius, but she has no more bullets, so she throws the gun in his face and jumps out of a window. She survives, by the way. After that, he's arrested and he's accused of the murder that he witnessed. And an interesting thing here, although he lives in the Dutch Empire, he still gets a lawyer. And the lawyer basically says, you're screwed. But then they find evidence of a diary of the woman who killed the two guys, showing that she planned this murder. So they show this to the judge. So the judge sees that he's not guilty of the murder, but they raided his home and they found stolen coffee beans. And for having stolen some coffee beans, he gets sentenced to 3 years hard labor in a sulfur mine. And people who are sent to a sulfur mine quite often die. So we get a few pages of the days where he's working and toiling there, and it's hard labor, brutal labor. And when you collapse, you've got the guards who beat you, but a lot of people just die. Then there's another prisoner called Danny that during the night tells Antonius of his plan of how to escape. One of the days they're working, there is an earthquake, so you have everyone trying to get out of there. They take advantage of this diversion to scale a wall where there are some rocks they can climb and get out of the camp. And it's hard, but they succeed, but Antonius is alone. So the first thing he does next morning is that he sneakily goes into his village and goes to the church and asks help of the priest. So the priest reluctantly brings in his family. He also gets some new clothes and he gets a little bit of food, and then he leaves and goes to the forest. And he's heard of some rebels in some distant place, so he has a goal of going there. This is Indonesia, so a lot of people in the 50s have some survival skills of how to live in the forest. So he makes a bunch of makeshift stuff with bamboo so he can get some drinking water and he can boil some stuff. I don't really understand it, but it's odd and interesting. Then he decides that he needs to steal a machete, so he goes to some other village and goes to quickly take the machete and go back into the forest. And it's a lot easier to move in the forest with vines by cutting it. And in North Sulawesi, there aren't any dangerous animals in the forest for the most part. And he's getting a bit hungry, but he manages to set up a mousetrap and he finds some larvae that he eats and that he cooks. And one night he gets to the village of Kwan Kone and he drops into a house randomly because it's past curfew and he doesn't want to get caught by soldiers. And after a little exchange, the family agree to protect him during the night and Arnold is gonna help him in the morning. And he gets some breakfast. He's hidden in a carriage that the farmer has and they go to the edge of the wilderness. And Arnold leaves him there and explains to him how he can find the rebels. So Antonius moves on and he's descending a trail a lot. Eventually he finds the place because suddenly he hears "don't move." He's thrown down, he gets his hand tied behind his back and he's blindfolded and he's brought to the base. And there they interrogate him, they think he might be a spy. But after that, the next morning you have Danny who arrives, who's also tried to get there, and they corroborate each other's stories. So they are trusted and released, and now they get to join this rebel camp. Out of one of the huts comes out Amelia, the girl who threw the gun in his face, and they have an argument. And then in the night, while he's awake, Antonius hears something, so he gets up. He goes towards Amelia's hut. He sees a man enter it and hears a scream, so he goes into it and tries to get the guy off. The guy attacks him, but then Amelia beats him over the head with something hard, which leads him to die within a few days. But after that, Amelia hugs Antonius, so now Antonius and Amelia like each other. And then we move forward 6 months into 1954, and we see that several days a week he gets guard duty, so he has to stay awake in the night or in the day and just watch that there's no intruder. But one day he hears an intruder and he captures a white woman. He takes her to the base and he waits for the leader, Sonny, to come talk to her, and she explains who she is. So she says she's an Australian journalist and she wants to interview the rebels. They're hesitant, but they agree in exchange for some important information she claims to have. So she asks them a bunch of questions, and then she reveals the Dutch soldiers are coming to get you. They kind of know where you are. So they decide that they have to leave camp very soon and that they should split up into two. So you've got Sonny, who goes off with a few other guys, and then you have another guy called Tarsi who splits off, and here you have Antonius and Amelia who goes with him, while you have Danny who goes with Sonny. And Rose also goes with Tarsi. So they're going through the forest. Rose reveals of a new place they could go to where they'd be safe. There's some island with some friendly people. There's a guy with a boat who could take them there. But suddenly they get ambushed by Dutch soldiers. And they found them because Rose left a chocolate trail. And here, this is kind of the climax of the book, in a sense, you could say, because you have Amelia who screams and recognizes the squad leader as the guy who raped her, and then you have Antonius who recognizes a friend he had, Yuppie, as one of the soldiers. So the squad leader takes Antonius and Yuppie and orders Yuppie to shoot Antonius, and Yuppie hesitates. Then they hear some commotion between the soldiers and the captured rebels, and the squad leader turns to join the fight, but then he gets a gun in his face from Amelia and is shot point blank. She's getting ready to shoot Yuppie, but he's dropped his gun. Antonius asks Yuppie to hand him the gun. He does so. Antonius rushes towards the crowd and basically says, "Everyone stop, soldiers surrender." And they do so. Antonius makes up a plan. Okay, you're going to go back to the village and say you were ambushed and that your squad leader was killed, and one of you resisted and got a bloody nose because of it. Because of that, we'll release you and we won't kill you. And the soldiers agree. By the way, the soldiers are native, while the squad leader was white. But Yuppie decides to stay behind the rebels. But then they continue their journey. Rose visits the boat guy, and then the boat guy comes and they negotiate the price. Amelia gives him a precious gold thing of hers. They use canoes to get to the boat. The journey of the boat to the island takes several days. You also get to see here how the sea experience can be quite bad. The waves can cause you to vomit and other unpleasant things. They start getting really thirsty because some of the rebels decided to take a shower with water supply, so they have very little water. They're getting headache from not drinking enough water. But one day it rains, so then they drink a lot for an hour and they feel better. But one day you have a bad storm and they get life vests on, but Antonius realizes that Amelia is not inside with the rest of them, and he finds her outside in the boat, and she tips over and he jumps into the water to save her, and she grabs his foot. You have one of the sailors who jumps in and helps them, and then another sailor who pulls them up from the boat, and they're dragged back into the boat. And they bring Amelia inside and perform CPR, and she's fine. And now she truly loves Antonius. They decide that they're gonna get married soon. And on the morning they're gonna get to the island, they catch a lot of fish. Afterwards, the captain brings them to the island and they're dropped off there. And that's the story. So how would I rate The Coffee Thief? I'm gonna give it a strong 8 out of 10. This book is overall very well written, I'd say. There's not a word wasted, really. There's no boring moment in this book, really, I'd say. It's very concise, and you almost wish it was longer, but it's better for a book to be too short than to be too long. But it was interesting to read about the North Sulawesi region in Indonesia, and to understand how the Dutch Empire kind of operated in Indonesia also. And there are quite a few different type of characters in this short book. So yes, this is good alternative history. It's on par kind of with Alternative History Hub's alternate history book, I'd say. Turtle Love has written many better books, but then there are also a lot of other alternative history books that aren't as good. So if you can somehow get your hand on this novel by this alternative history indie author, then I would definitely recommend you to check out The Coffee Thief by William Smits. And again, thank you William Smits or Williams Library for sending me this book. I really enjoyed reading it, and I for sure would be interested if you ever wrote another alternative history book. However, if you want to learn about an alternative history that's not good but mediocre, then I would recommend you to check out my book review of The Sky People. It's humans that get onto Venus somehow when there are dinosaurs and Neanderthals, and it's the most boring alternative history I've ever read. Unlike this entertaining, concise book. Anyways, I'm the Avid Reader, and I will see you readers next time.